We're back for our daily MLB best bets for game number 7 of the American League Championship Series between the Seattle Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays. It is win or go home tonight from Toronto. George Kirby, Shane Bieber take the mound. It is the same exact pitching matchup we got in game number 3 of this series, but of course the winner of tonight's game will win the pennant and advance to Friday to take on the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. Now, if it's the Blue Jays winning this game, of course, game 1 of the World Series will be up in the 6th in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and if the Mariners get this one, they will be heading on over to Los Angeles for game 1 on Friday night. It is a huge matchup. Of course, yesterday we successfully predicted all of our best bets. We went 3 for 3, overcashed. Blue Jays won. Vladimir Guerrero hit the home run. We had a big day yesterday, looking for more tonight. Obviously, with this being game 7 and game 1 of the World Series not being until Friday, our next MLB best bet video will be early Friday morning, but starting tomorrow, our NBA best bets. It's kind of perfect timing here in a sense. Our NBA best bets start tomorrow. It's going to be taking the time of our MLB best bets. Obviously, when the MLB comes back, we'll figure things out, at least time-wise. But tomorrow at 5 a.m. Pacific, 8 a.m. Eastern, the start of our daily NBA best bets. You're not going to want to miss that here on the channel every day. 5 NBA best bets. Again, starting tomorrow on opening day. Rockets versus Thunder and Warriors versus Lakers. Okay. Before we all swing into the video, make sure to go check out our college football predictions later today. It's probably going to be around 4 hours, so you're not going to want to miss that. Also, go make sure to check out our NFL predictions. Obviously, Monday Night Football tonight, and of course, more predictions tomorrow. And on Greedo Plays MMA, our UFC 321 predictions. Tom Aspinall taking on Ciryl Gane for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. Now that we got all that out of the way, let's move on to the first of our 3 best bets for win or go home game number 7, kicking things off with Vladimir Guerrero again. I know, it's been our most bet player prop all year now. It has to be. I'm going to the well once more with Vladimir Guerrero. Why wouldn't I? I mean, that's ultimately what you have to say here, guys. If the Blue Jays are going to have a chance tonight, they need Guerrero to have another big moment. And it has been big moment after big moment after big moment in the playoffs for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who comes into Game 7 of the World Series. He's played 9 games so far in this postseason, and he's batting at .462. He wants to be the next leader of the next Toronto Blue Jays championship team. And obviously, Vlad has been the biggest reason in why Toronto's even in this spot. Yesterday, it didn't get a hit until the 5th inning, but boy, was it a big one. Vladimir Guerrero with a solo home run into left field. I mean, the game was already 4-0 at that point, but it was an insurance run. It gave Toronto a 5-0 lead. And yes, Seattle ended up scoring in the next half inning anyway, but it was the cherry on top for Toronto in order, obviously, to push this game we are getting tonight. Guerrero later in the game did saw off his bat. He broke his bat, hitting a soft liner into left field that got down. So again, Guerrero went 2 for 4 and totaled 5 total bags. But again, we only need 2 bases today. And we have gone to this in every game so far in this series played in Toronto. We went to it. We stayed away from it in Seattle, where Guerrero successfully went over the 1.5 total bag mark in every single game he played over in the Pacific Northwest. But I mean, the struggle for Guerrero in this series was game 1 and game 2. Could not get going against Seattle. I mean, credit that to the hangover, both literally and figuratively after, the Blue Jays went to the Bronx and eliminated the Yankees. You can credit that to whatever you want to credit it towards, but Guerrero stepped up in a big way after Toronto went down 2-0. Obviously, Toronto wins back-to-back in Seattle before dropping game number 6 or game number 5, and then obviously tying things back up with the game number 6 victory. And obviously, I'm going to talk about all the scenarios and the situations in terms of the money line and the final prediction at the end of the video with our final best bet. But in this, obviously, for our best player prop today, I have to go with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It's just been big hit after big hit after big hit after starting the ALCS 0 for 7. I was concerned to start the series, but you know what? Everyone on this Blue Jays lineup was struggling mightily to hit at home in games 1 and 2, and that's why it was so important. Obviously, Toronto needed to win yesterday, so that was obviously important right there. But that was such a huge victory for that team because of the way that they won. Bats finally showed up in Toronto, something that we saw, 23 combined runs in 16 innings, 16 innings at the plate in the ALDS against the New York Yankees. Again, ice cold in the first 2 games of the ALCS in Toronto. What happens in game number 6? Yeah, everybody shows up. And again, Guerrero's a big reason towards that. Hits that, that home run to make it a 5-0 lead. Guerrero shows up in big spots, and he's just been a home run monster and a home run machine so far in this postseason. Again, Guerrero comes into today batting .460 in the postseason. It is truly an insane mark. .462. I'm actually taking some numbers off right there. Pitcher tonight for the Seattle Mariners, it will be George Kirby. Now, we're going to talk about all the pitchers later on in the video, actually in a second, but I think everybody is on the table today. Legitimately. Every single pitcher from either team will throw, yes, except for Trey Savage and Logan Gilbert. Everybody, I believe, is available tonight. Even potentially a guy like Kevin Gausman. I think there's a chance Gausman can go an inning today. I highly doubt it. I'd be very shocked if Gausman threw, but that's what I mean by everybody should be able to throw tonight. The broadcast was talking about it yesterday that Max Scherzer was available out the bullpen if they needed him. Obviously, a Savage gave them a really good night, and they could just go to the bullpen straight after. Scherzer, I think, will definitely come into play tonight. Again, this is not about Blue Jays pitching, but I'm just letting you know about that. In terms of Seattle, yes, George Kirby's going to get the start. I would expect Brian Wu. I don't know if I would expect Luis Castillo, but everyone in the bullpen, I believe, will eventually get some run. And I do believe Andres Munoz will be available for multiple innings today. Munoz has only thrown in 2 games so far of this ALCS. He obviously threw in Game 5 to get the save, and he threw in Game number 2 as well. I would expect, Game number 1 to get the save. I'd expect multiple innings out of Munoz tonight. And obviously, Seattle wants him for late game, but if they get a situation where the game's tight, the game's, potentially tied in the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, I think they go to Munoz much earlier than when Munoz usually comes onto the field. So just expect that and just be, again, aware of that potentially with Andres Munoz. But Vladimir Guerrero is going to get in that bat off of Logan Gilbert. Off of Logan Gilbert. Where it goes from there, I don't know, right? How many at-bats will he get against Gilbert? I don't know. But what I do know is that the last time Logan Gilbert pitched against the Toronto Blue Jays in Seattle, he went 4 innings, gave up 8 hits, and 8 runs and walked 2 batters. George Kirby's ERA in the postseason now is 7.07. And what did Guerrero do against George Kirby? Well, in that game as a whole, that was the game where Vladdy went 4 for 4 and was a triple shy of the cycle. Against just Kirby, he had an infield single in the first inning, a double in the 3rd inning, and then obviously after Kirby got pulled, home run in the 5th, got intentionally walked in the 6th inning, and then the double in the 8th. Again, a 4 for 4 night for Guerrero with 2 doubles, a single, and a home run. If the Blue Jays are going to be competitive tonight, and if they need a spark from anybody, it's going to be Vladimir Guerrero, and that's why it was so important last night when we had the same exact line that Lucas got on base. I mean, the fact that Nathan Lucas gets on and he fights off good pitches and he again just gets on base is huge because there's nowhere to put Guerrero. So Vladdy Vladdy got opportunities last night, right? Grounded out in his first 2 at-bats. 5th inning, though, home run. 7th inning, got hit. 8th inning, sawed his bat off with the single. There's nowhere to put the guy. Again, if Lucas is hitting well, George Springer went 0 for last night. Again, first game back after exiting Game 5, obviously, with the hit-by pitch to the kneecap. I'd expect Guerrero to come up big today, man. I'm going to go Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for our first bet of Game 7 of the ALCS. Again, it's so good. We got to do it again. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. over 1.5 total bags. It's the same exact line as yesterday. -120 for the heart and soul of the Toronto Blue Jays. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. over 1.5 total bases. On to our second best bet of the video. We move to the under tonight. I think this is really good value for the under. I know I've been big on the over in this series, and we took it last night, and it was 7.5, and obviously 8 total runs were scored. That's why it was so big. Raleigh made the throwing error down to 3rd, and Guerrero, obviously, who was trying to advance to 3rd, ends up advancing to home off of the the missed throw by Cal Raleigh. So over cashed yesterday. I think the under actually cashes today. Yeah, I believe so. In a game like this, it's a game 7, and I don't want to, entirely compare the Mariners game 5 of the ALDS. I know the broadcasters, Joe Davis and whatnot on Fox, they were laughing about it at the end of the game, like, oh, let's prepare for 17 innings tomorrow, or let's go out and get 17 innings for game number 7 tomorrow. And I forget, I think it was Davis who said it. He was like, well, we already saw 15 innings out of the Mariners. That's just how they play. That's where they're comfortable. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get a 15-inning marathon game like we saw in game 5 of the ALDS between the Tigers and the Mariners, but I do believe that this is going to be a somewhat low-scoring game. Again, don't want to completely compare to what Game 5 was between Detroit and Seattle because, well, that game was in Seattle. Marine Layer. I know the Marine Layer did not exist in the 3 games that were played in the Pacific Northwest in this series. But again, winner-go-home game in Game 5 of the ALDS. Marine Layer, Tigers can't hit, Mariners couldn't hit, Skubal was pitching. I don't think we're going to get... I can't completely compare what we saw in Game 5 of that series to Game 7 here. But what I will say is that I think the under is going to be fine because of the many pitchers that will have to throw today. Because, guys, the leash is as short as possible for every single pitcher pitching tonight. And I believe, again, the leash is by far the shortest on George Kirby. Now, you might be asking, why am I not playing a strikeout prop? Because that's a great chance to potentially cash in on some unders, because how long are guys going to really go in this game? Don't love it, because George Kirby's line, I believe, is 3.5. And even in the game where he got walloped in Game 3 against the Blue Jays, he only pitched 4 innings. He gave up 8 hits on 8 runs. He still found a way to get 4 strikeouts. And I'm not confident one way or the other playing a 3.5 line on a guy, again, who still went 4 innings and got 4 Ks. Now, again, Kirby's outing could go from 2 innings all the way till 6. Same thing can be said about Shane Bieber. It's just a matter of how well they are pitching. Obviously, Seattle's had the short hook on pitchers before in this series. We've seen it, or at least in the postseason too. We saw it with Luis Castillo. We saw it, obviously, in Game 5 with Bryce Miller. It's a move that paid off for Dan Wilson and the Seattle Mariners. But there is potential of that, of Kirby getting pulled in. Same thing with Shane Bieber, too. Now, Bieber pitched much better in Game 3. Obviously, again, we said it earlier. Both Kirby and Bieber squared off in Game number 3 of the ALCS. And again, advantage to Shane Bieber. It's a game that the Toronto Blue Jays 100% needed to win. It was a game that I thought Seattle was actually going to go out and get, especially after the 2-run home run hit by Julio Rodriguez. And I said this again the other day, that was before Game 5 actually, that was the moment. If the Mariners don't win this series and don't advance to their first ever World Series, that's the moment they're going to look at. Julio Rodriguez hit a 2-run home run. Crowds amped. They're pumped in the first game at T-Mobile Park after going to Toronto and winning the first 2. The face of the franchise, oh, it's Raleigh. Well, look who's getting paid all that money, and look who's there for the next 13 seasons. Julio Rodriguez hit the 2-run home run to put them up to nothing, giving the ball to your best pitcher, and Andres Jimenez happens, and you blow it. And ultimately, you get blown out in Game number 3. Toronto wins it 13-4. And then, oh, here comes Scherzer. And sure, you salvage Game 5, but you lose Game 6, and now here we are, obviously, in a win-or-go-home Game 7. Again, more on the money line and the winner to that game in a second. But look how Bieber pitches in Game 3. He's good. Shane Bieber's really good. Again, gives up the 2-run home run to Julio, does not give up another run after that. In the entire game, Shane Bieber goes 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs. Again, 8 strikeouts. The only runs allowed on the 2-run Julio Rodriguez home run. For Kirby, again, he gets walloped. 4 innings, 8 hits, 8 runs, 3 home runs. The Blue Jays were all over George Kirby in that outing. Again, I think both guys have a short leash, so it's to the point where I don't think Toronto's going to be able to score. Obviously, there's no chance in hell they're going to be given the opportunity to score 8 runs on Kirby, because 100% Dan Wilson will pull George Kirby before that can happen. Hell, again, I think when either Kirby or Bieber gives up 2 runs in a game like this, winner go home Game 7, immediately they're getting pulled. It's because, too, you have starting pitching waiting. If Toronto needs a guy to give them 3-4 innings, Max Scherzer, who pitched very well in Game 4, is available. If the Mariners need someone to relieve George Kirby and give them 3 or 4 innings, Brian Wu, who arguably, he was their best starting pitcher in the regular season. Obviously, he's been dealing with injuries lately. You have Brian Wu available too. Hell, you have Luis Castillo if you really need him as well. You have pitching at your disposal. Bryce Miller only threw 60-something pitches in Game 5. If you need him for an inning, Bryce Miller could also go as well. So neither Kirby or Bieber have a long leash at all. They probably have the shortest leash possible. I'd say, again, Kirby actually has the shorter leash. But with that being said, it's a win-or-go-home game. I think, again, historically, at least we've seen recently, these Game 7s are really low scoring. And asking 8 runs out of a game like this with two guys who are more than capable on the mound, but also, again, 2 deep bullpens. Because, it's sometimes a factor, too, when you're thinking, okay, well, you got to throw everybody in a win-or-go-home game, right? Game 5, Game 7, you have to throw everybody, right? Because, there's no next game, right? And that's why the Mariners, who threw everybody in Game 5 of the ALDS against the Detroit Tigers, they had to pitch Bryce Miller in Game 1 of the ALCS because they literally had nobody left. Neither of these teams are really going. I mean, again, they wouldn't be concerned in the first place, but they're really not concerned at all about who they throw because they don't play again until Friday. I mean, there is no worrying about, we've thrown this guy 2 nights in a row. We threw him last night. Okay, really don't want to throw him again. I mean, they can throw literally anybody. Anybody can throw tonight. It does not matter because you're not playing another game till Friday. Anybody who pitches today can still start Game 1, which I assume from the Mariners, I believe it's actually going to be George Kirby, I think. I think Kirby's their Game 1 starter. Kirby can pitch again in Game 1 of the World Series if you need him to. Kevin Gausman, if the Blue Jays win, will be the Game 1 starter. He can throw again as well tonight. I don't know how long Gausman can throw. I assume he can throw 1 inning. That does not affect him for his potential Friday start. Again, the only guys who are off limits tonight are Trey Savage and Logan Gilbert. So because of this and because of how deep the bullpens are going to be tonight and every pitcher at both managers' disposal, I think the under cashes. Because once you get the starter, guys, yes, Kirby and Bieber are the starters tonight, but as soon as they get into trouble, we are immediately playing matchups. Again, you can go long relief options like Brian Wu, like Max Scherzer, who are probably going to be, again, the 2 main starters coming out of the bullpen for both Toronto and Seattle. Again, you can go to those guys 100%, but as we get deeper and deeper into this game, it's just matchups. It is just matchups. Who do we want to face? Vladdy. Do we want to keep Vladdy? Do we want to put Vladdy on for whoever, so-and-so, right? Again, I still believe Vladdy's going to go over his total bag mark, but you're going to see managers, and this is just a thing traditionally with baseball too, managers manage Game 7s differently. And this is not, it's not an elimination, 1-game wild card, Game 3 the wild card round, Game 5 of the, divisional series. No. This is for the right to go to the World Series. Like, managers are just gonna manage this game differently. They operate on a completely different level in this game. So again, neither manager is going to be hesitant on pulling either starting pitcher, and then even once you get into the Scherzer/Woos of the world, again, leash is going to be short on absolutely everybody tonight. So that's why I think the under goes. Also, again, I mean, I've seen Seattle struggle a lot at the plate right now. They scored 2 runs in game number 6, both of which are in the 6th inning. Josh Naylor hits the solo home run in the top of the 6th. Eugenio Suarez later scores Randy Arozarena. Toronto, again, looks like they're going to be tough to keep off the base paths. But again, I would say Seattle pitching's probably going to be better tonight. I mean, I'd be shocked if they weren't. I assume Seattle's pitching is going to lock in. Again, I think the biggest concern, if I'm a Mariners fan, is George Kirby. It is. If I'm a Mariners fan, I want Brian Wu in this game as soon as possible. I know Wu gave up a run as soon as he came in game number 5, but that's my guy I want if I'm Seattle. Obviously, again, Kirby's going to get the start, but I'd be a little bit skeptical after George Kirby's game number 3. I would. For, again, Toronto, I mean, that's a great lineup that they look like they're really tough to keep off the bases right now. Vlad, Lucas, Springer obviously goes 0 for yesterday. I don't think that happens back-to-back games. Barger's in the ball really well. I know IKF and Jimenez are kind of, limited yesterday. Andres Jimenez, who's been a big factor of the series in games 3 and 4, he'll probably show up eventually. That's where game 7 comes into play. I get it, but still, I think Seattle pitching rises to the occasion. And I'm not sold on their bats either, and I think the Blue Jays are going to do a good job pitching again. Look how Bieber pitched in Game 3. I think the Toronto Blue Jays and Seattle Mariners go under 7.5 runs here for game number 7, minus 110 on the under. But here we go. Who advances to the World Series to take on the National League champion Dodgers? I am going with the Toronto Blue Jays. Yep, we're going to Toronto. I'm taking the Blue Jays to win this one. They will be hosting game number 1 of the World Series up in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Why have I landed on this? Well, a couple reasons. We have now seen that Toronto can win at home. a place that they looked unbeatable in the American League Divisional Series against the New York Yankees, to dominant and high-scoring victories for Toronto at home. You then go to the ALCS where they can't win in games 1 and 2, and they look horrible offensively in those games. And then they go to Seattle and they turn it around. Not to beat a dead horse, but I'm telling you, the image and the, just the memory that's going to last in the minds of Mariners fans throughout this entire offseason will be Game 3. It's, again, I was watching the game and I had the Mariners, and when Springer hit the home run, I texted my very good friend who's a Mariners fan, oh my goodness, the Mariners are actually going to do it. And then they choked. And then Andres Jimenez hits the 2-run shot. And then it all just unravels for the Mariners. That's going to be the moment. Because Game 4 came around and I immediately jumped back on the Blue Jays. I was like, the Mariners are now going through their run where they can't hit. And sure, in Game 5, they get bailed. I can't say they got bailed out. They had some really great hitting. Eugenio Suarez was the hero in Game 5, obviously. Hit the solo home run early and then hit the grand slam in the 8th inning. Obviously, Raleigh hits the solo home run in the 8th inning as well. Puts the Mariners over the top. Puts them up 3-2 going back to Toronto. But obviously, right, the Blue Jays get game number 6. And, right, I have seen Toronto win at home now. And with that crowd, with these guys in the lineup, with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the lineup, I'm so hard-pressed to not pick the Toronto Blue Jays. So, again, I have to go with them here. Now, I don't put, actually, I don't put that much into the Game 3, matchup. I don't. Like, I know, again, we just saw we were going to see Kirby and Bieber again. I don't put too much into it. Like, I completely dismissed the looking at Game 2 going to Game 6, really. Even though, I did look at it, and I still thought it was going to go better for the Blue Jays just because of how Toronto approached Gilbert and how Savage just threw some bad pitches to Seattle. But ultimately, that's what it comes down to, too, right? The Mariners lineup cannot match the Blue Jays lineup. Seattle needs to win a low-scoring game. Not to say Toronto can't either, which I believe actually they will do. But what Seattle needs to win this game is like a 3-1 final. When I'm saying under 7.5 runs, I'm thinking like 4-2 Toronto. I don't think the Mariners can really score more than 3 runs. Again, it's the solo home run. But man, there were so many opportunities for the Mariners, and that looked like Seattle Mariners baseball for the last 4 seasons. You put guys on base, and you leave them there. Back-to-back-to-back innings of inning-ending double plays. Bases loaded double play. Again, next inning, bases loaded double play. And then just a routine, I believe it was a 5-4-3, I believe it was, double play. Was it 6-4-3? It might have been 6-4-3. Double play. They did it to themselves. They did it to themselves in 3 straight innings. And the 3 key guys we said about Seattle that needed to show up and have been showing up in the postseason, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, and Jorge Polanco, went a combined 0-for-11 in Game 6. That's not going to cut it. And obviously, Raleigh was put in potentially the biggest spot of that game. 3rd inning, top of the 3rd, Blue Jays scored 2 in the bottom of the 2nd. They could have got way more, though. They had bases loaded with 1 out, and they only got 2 runs. Anyways, they had bases loaded. Yeah, they bases loaded 1 out. They scored early in the inning. Regardless, Toronto's up 2-0. Top 3rd happens. The Mariners got bases loaded with 1 out, and their best guy at the plate, Cal Raleigh, what does he do? He beats the ball right into the ground, and the Blue Jays turn 2. That was the biggest moment for the Seattle Mariners in game number 6, and they had the guy they want at the plate, and Raleigh beat one straight into the ground. When Julio, Raleigh, and Polanco all don't show up, you're in trouble. Yes, Josh Naylor's actually had a really good postseason as well. Beyond Josh Naylor, though, I know Randy had 2 hits yesterday, not banking on him. Gino, he's playing too well right now. Not going to bank on him. J.P. Crawford, no. Canzone, no. Rivas, no. Maybe we see a Robles appearance again. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, the Mariners are in trouble. And I don't put much into Kirby Bieber. I think both guys are getting pulled immediately as they get into trouble. But who's more likely to get into trouble first? George Kirby or Shane Bieber? I'm pretty sure it's Kirby. I'm very sure, actually, it's George Kirby. Because it's not like Toronto was, they were just, hits were bleeding out and they were getting down. They were ripping them right down the line. Jimenez takes him deep. Kirby gives up 3 home runs in that game. It's not like balls were just blooping. It's not like Kirby's command was just that bad. the pitch Jimenez homers on George Kirby is actually a pretty good pitch. And Jimenez just finds a way to pull it. Just finds a way to pull it, just finds a way to put it in the seats. Kirby gave up home run after home run. Springer, that pitch was center, that was a miss, but still. Springer blasts one 430 plus feet. Guerrero takes him yard as well. Actually, yeah, I don't know why earlier I said Guerrero didn't hit the home run against Kirby. It was against Kirby. That's the eventual batter he got pulled on. I don't know why Kirby was still out there for Vlad, but regardless, right? I mean, it was hit after hit after hit on George Kirby. It's not like those were fluky hits. And oh, by the way, it's easier to hit in Toronto than it is in Seattle. Blue Jays are in their environment. They've swung all the momentum. I know, again, the Mariners won Game 5, an entertaining Game 5, and they did it at home. Toronto has snatched that momentum back. Winning Game 6 at home is the biggest thing you can possibly do. Obviously, you need it for the series, but now, I mean, you got all the momentum. All the momentum is on your side now. I'm going Toronto. I'm going with the Blue Jays here. I like the Mariners' pen. I can say that. Like, I think, again, Andres Munoz has not been used as much as we thought he was going to be used in this postseason because, oddly enough, some of the Mariners' victories just aren't that competitive. I mean, look at Game 2, 10-3. Obviously, they used Munoz in a 4-run game in Game 5. But again, Andres Munoz is really the only true elite closer left in the postseason. Oh, Roki Sasaki. No, Munoz is a much better closer than Roki. And obviously, the Blue Jays do have a closer problem. I mean, they've got guys who can get saves for them. Obviously, top of that list is going to be Jeff Hoffman, but I would not call Hoffman elite by any stretch of the imagination, like a guy like Andres Munoz. But anyways, I think Toronto's going to get it tonight. I think they're going to. I will look at this game. I'm not too concerned about the pitching because I believe, right, both teams are going to give up 1 or 2 runs. It's just a matter of who gets runs 3 and 4. That, to me, is going to be the Blue Jays. Because of their lineup, because of the fact that, again, I like Brian Wu, but Brian Wu pitched 1 game, in Game 5, and he was all right. Gave up a run early in his outing and didn't pitch that long, but still, this is a guy that's pitched once in the last month. And you get a Game 7 Max Scherzer. I mean, long gone are the days where Scherzer was labeled a playoff choker. Obviously, that was, early Nationals days. I mean, 2019 proved that one wrong, obviously, for Max. He has pitched out of the bullpen before in postseason series. Obviously, he's a 2-time World Series champion, obviously, in 2019 with the Washington Nationals, in 2022 with the Texas Rangers. He's been there, he's done that, and he, again, is still a very clutch player. He's a guy that you can rely on in big spots. And ultimately, right, I have to go, 2023 World Series champion with the Rangers. Ultimately, I have to pick Toronto here. I have to. With this lineup, I can't rely on Seattle's lineup to show up tonight. I can't. Because I've watched them play, and yes, Suarez is the big grand slam in game number 5, and that's awesome, but really, I've not seen that dangerous Mariners lineup since game number 2, and I'm not going to bank on the fact that, they're just going to reappear now in game number 7. I believe Toronto advances, and I believe they'll take on the Los Angeles Dodgers in game number 1 of the World Series starting on Friday. So you're not going to want to miss our best bets again for game 1 starting on Friday. Whether it be Toronto or Seattle, we will be back, so make sure to join us for that. Folks, thank y'all for watching our 3 best bets, for Game 7 of the American League Championship Series between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you did disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back again on Friday morning for Game 1 of our World Series best bets. Obviously, tomorrow, too, our 5 best bets begin for the entire 2025-2026 NBA regular season. So you're not going to want to miss that. We had a crazy run last year in the NBA. Hey, I did call the Indiana Pacers going to the finals very early in the regular season, so you're not going to want to miss again what we do this year with the association. Folks, I'll see you tomorrow for our NBA best bets, later today for our college football predictions over 4 hours probably, and then of course MLB World Series predictions and best bets starting up again on Friday. Folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you did disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.